Hello everybody, and you're very welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about the world famous Allis Chalmers, and not just the tractors, not just the combines, because although I knew of Allis Chalmers, I've listened to my father talking about them from the past and reading, in farm machinery books about Allis Chalmers tractors and combines and the like. I actually had no idea that they were such a massive company outside of the agricultural farm machinery world, that they span the industries that they have been involved in. Just like, I would say, probably every industry in the US at one stage, Allis Chalmers were the leading manufacturers of equipment for. So they had such a wide, diverse portfolio of products and services. Um, I didn't realize it until I went researching it when I looked them up. And I have to say, of all the companies since I started doing this channel, all the companies that I have studied and read up on and tried to get a little bit of history on, Allis Chalmers has probably been the easiest, because there is so much information out there. There are so many groups, there's so many Facebook pages, there's so many websites dedicated to Allis Chalmers throughout the years, from the very beginning, and everything that they have been involved in. And there's collectors groups now. There's loads of people that you can get great information off. There's lots of information on YouTube as well. There's lots of good videos of the machinery, not just the agricultural machinery, but a little bit of everything. And their portfolio, as I said, it does go far beyond tractors and combines. And that is what we here in Ireland, I suppose, and in the UK, that's what we associate them with. And I'm so glad that I have actually taken the time now to study them, because down through the years, they have had the world's best engineers and scientists working for them, including the famous Nikola Tesla, who the Tesla car company is, named after. So he was one of the leading scientists and engineers of his time, a genius by all accounts, and he worked for them. They had their hand during the 1800s, the late 1800s, the early 1900s. As I said, they did have their hand in pretty much every industry that I will deal with in this video and in the next video. And I do plan on having 3 videos. Now, the next video will be next week, because I am shooting it all pretty much now in the one. And the second part is going to be out next week, and the third part will be out the week before. So for this video, I'm going to be looking at Allis Chalmers up till about the 1930s. The next video then will deal with the 1930s pretty much up to the end of the company in the 1990s as such, thereabouts, and how they got, I suppose, swallowed up into the whole agco world, and how Massey Ferguson today and Fent and the likes of those companies, Gleaner and that, have their roots as such is in Allis Chalmers as well, amongst other companies outside the agricultural world. And then for the third video, I'm going to take time to individually look at a lot of the products that they had developed and what they done, what they were famous for, including the tractors and combines, and some of the other steam engines, bandsaws, locomotives. There was so much that they were involved in. So, but for today, we're going to be dealing with up to the history of the company, the formation of the company up until the 1930s. So just before we get started on that, very nearly at 3,000 subs, 3,000 subs, very, very close to it. Another few will get us over the line. So if you haven't subbed already, if you're watching week on week and you haven't subbed, please hit the sub button. If you could like the video, I'd really much appreciate it, and share. And as always, I always encourage people to leave a comment, just to add in a little bit of something, a little bit of your history with whatever topic we're talking about. So without further ado, we're going to get into the history of the Allis Chalmers Company and how it all started. So who were they? Well, Allis Chalmers was a US manufacturer of machinery for various industries. Its business lines included agricultural equipment, obviously, construction equipment, power generation, power transmission equipment, and machinery for use in industrial settings such as factories, flour mills, sawmills, textile mills, steel mills, refineries, mines, and ore mills. The first Allis Chalmers Company was formed in 1901 as an amalgamation of the Edward P. Allis Company, steam engines and mill equipment, and the Fraser and Chalmers, that was a mining and ore milling equipment, and the Gates Iron Works, that was a rock and cement milling equipment, and the industry business line of the Dixon Manufacturing Company, and they were famous for making engines and compressors. It was reorganized in 1912 as the Allis Chalmers Manufacturing Company. So during the next 70 years, its industrial machinery filled countless mills, mines, factories around the world, and its brand gained fame among consumers, mostly from its farm equipment business through its orange tractors and its silver combine line. So, as you can see, as we have seen with a lot of other companies throughout that period, Case and International, a lot of these companies became so big due to amalgamations. So, as we've seen in this case, 3, 4, 5, 6 different companies all came together to make what became the Allis Chalmers Company. So moved on then into the 1980s and the 1990s, a series of divestitures transformed the firm to eventually dissolve it. Its successors today are the Allis Chalmers Energy Company and, of course, AGCO, that we're all very familiar with. So getting back to the history then, so Edward P. Allis, he was an entrepreneur from the 1860s who bought a bankrupt firm at a sheriff's auction, which was the Reliance Works of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that had been owned by James Decker and Charles Seville. Decker and Seville were millwrights who made equipment for flour milling. Under Allis's management, the firm was reinvigorated and began producing steam engines and other mill equipment just at the time that many sawmills and flour mills were converting to steam power. So he was bang on time. So although the financial panic of 1873 caught Edward Allis overextended and forced him into bankruptcy, his own reputation saved him from his own reputation saved him, and reorganization came quickly, forming the Edward P. Allis Company. It's said that he set out to hire known experts, so George Hinckley, who perfected the bandsaw, William Gray, who revolutionized the sawmilling process through roller milling, and Edward Reynolds, who ran the Corliss steam engine works. Allis died in 1889, but under his sons, so that would be Charles and William Allis, and other principals, the firm continued to prosper, and by the 1900s, it had grown to become one of America's largest steam engine building companies. So we take a look at the other half of the name of the company. So Thomas Chalmers, he was actually a Scottish immigrant to America who came in the US around about 1842. By 1844, he was at Chicago, Illinois, and had found work with P.W. Gates, whose foundry and blacksmithing shops produced plows, wagons, and flour milling equipment. The Gates firm built the first steam-operated sawmill in the country at the time, when Chicago was the leading producer of mill lumber in the country. In 1872, Thomas Chalmers founded the Fraser and Chalmers firm to manufacture mining machinery, boilers, and pumps. In 1880, steam engines were part of the product line, and by 1890, the firm had become one of the world's largest manufacturers of mining equipment. Thomas Chalmers' son, William James Chalmers, was president of the company from 1890 to 1901. Meanwhile, the Gates Iron Works, with Chalmers family involvement, had become a manufacturer of crushers, pulverizers, and other rock and cement mining equipment. Another Scottish immigrant family, the Dixon family, came to Canada and the US sometime during the 1830s. By 1852, they had organized a small machine shop and foundry called Dixon and Company. That was in Scranton, Pennsylvania. In 1856, Thomas Dixon became its president, and in 1862, the firm incorporated as the Dixon Manufacturing Company. By the 1900s, they were involved in building boilers, steam engines, locomotives, internal combustion engines, blowers, and air compressors. So by 1901, the principals of the Edward P. Allis, Fraser and Chalmers and Gates firms had decided to merge their companies. Edwin Reynolds believed Allis could control the industrial engine business. So in May 1901, the Allis Chalmers Company was formed. It acquired also the Dixon industrial engine business. Dixon locomotive business was rolled into the new locomotive consolidation, so that would have been called the American Locomotive Company, or the ALCO at the time. So we're moving on then from 1901 to 1911. So the managing director of the new company, so that was Charles Allis. His brother William was chairman of the board, and William J. Chalmers was deputy managing director. Shortly after the merger was completed, the new factory was built in an area west of Milwaukee that was then known as North Greenfield. In 1902, with this new factory, the locale was renamed as West Allis, Wisconsin. So, with the combining of the constituent firms, Allis Chalmers offered a huge array of services. So, if you just bear with me now while I just talk through them. So, pyrometallurgic equipment such as blast furnaces and converters for roasting, smelting, and refining, ore mining equipment, various kinds of crushers, pulverizers, including stamp mills, roller mills, ball mills, conical mills, rod mills, jigging mills, cyanidation mills, and other concentration mills, hoisting engines, cars, including skip cars, slag cars, general mine cars, bricketing plants, and the pumps, tanks, boilers, compressors, hydraulic accumulators, pipes, valves, sieves, and conveyors needed all within these products. So that is a huge amount of equipment that they were involved in manufacturing before you even start to look at the agricultural end of the business. So, like other firms that build capital equipment for industrial corporations, it also supplied consulting, erecting, and training services, such as helping the mining company to design a plant, to build its buildings, and to set up its machinery, and then, of course, to teach the employees how to use and maintain it. In 1903, Allis Chalmers acquired the Bullock Electric Company of Cincinnati, Ohio, which added steam turbines to Allis Chalmers' power plant equipment business line. In 1912, then to 1919. So by 1912, the Allis Chalmers Company was in financial trouble. And you'd wonder how. So it was reorganized. It was renamed the Allis Chalmers Manufacturing Company. And Otto Falk, a former brigadier general of the Wisconsin National Guard, he was appointed to turn it around. Falk pushed for new products and new or expanded markets. Falk saw great growth potential in the mechanization of agriculture at the time, which at the time was blossoming all over America. Allis Chalmers' first tractors arrived, and that was the 1018, the Model 612, the Model 1530, and they were developed and marketed between 1914 and 1919, and the farm implement line then was expanded. So yeah, as we've seen with other companies such as David Brown, who started off as just simple engineering companies with a rush to mechanize farming throughout the early 1900s, they jumped on board and they were perfectly positioned to do so. So in the 1920s then, so as had also been true of the 1900s to 1900 to 1920 period, the Roaring Twenties were a favourable time for consolidation and even conglomeration throughout the business world. It was also a time of strongly continuing mechanization on North American farms. At Allis Chalmers, the 1920s brought yet more tractors such as the 1830, the 1220, the 1525, and of course the United Tractor, the Model U. Farming inventor and engineer, famed inventor and engineer Nikola Tesla spent the period 1990 to 1922 working in Milwaukee for Allis Chalmers. In 1926, Falk hired Harry Merritt, who would be a senior executive in Allis Chalmers' tractor business for many years. Merritt had worked in the sales and marketing of various brands of farm and construction equipment, so most recently Holt, when Falk hired him away. So Walter M. Boucher, who worked under Merritt, credited Merritt with turning around Allis Chalmers' ailing farm equipment business and transforming it into the main profit centre for the parent corporation. He said, "Some say that General Falk pulled Harry Merritt into Milwaukee to liquidate the ailing tractor division. Others say that it was he who brought into it a breath of new life into the unprofitable operation at the time." Even if the first appraisal is correct, the second proved to be the way it turned out. After Merritt's arrival, the profit picture really started to turn. So, as with a host of other companies around this time, the farm equipment business proved to be a financial lifesaver for the corporation. From next to nothing in 1927, Merritt saw the percentage of farm equipment business just go short of 60% of corporate sales. Also in 1926, Allis Chalmers acquired Nordyke Marmon and Company of Indianapolis, a maker of flour milling equipment. And in 1927, it acquired the Pittsburgh Transformer Company, who were obviously the maker of electrical transformers. And then in 1928, Allis Chalmers acquired the Monarch Tractor Company of Springfield, Illinois. And anyone that was familiar with the Monarch Tractor Company would know that this would add a line of crawler tractors. So in 1929, it acquired the Lacrosse Plow Works of Lacrosse, Wisconsin. The Lacrosse Plow Works had a good quality plow and various desirable implements, which now expanded the Allis Chalmers Implement 9. So also in 1929, Harry Merritt was in California when the bright orange California poppy blossoms inspired him to think about use of bright colours in the marketing of the tractors. Brightly coloured things that can be seen from far away had the potential in farm equipment marketing. So if you can imagine a tractor out in the middle of the field and it was quite a distance away in the middle of a prairie, if it was bright orange, you could quite easily identify it as being an Allis Chalmers. He soon changed the paint colour of the Allis Chalmers tractors to Persian orange, the available paint colour that he felt most closely resembled the California poppy's colour. Thus began the tradition of orange Allis Chalmers tractors. Various competitors, of course, would follow suit over the next decade as International Harvester switched to all red in 1936. Minneapolis Moline switched to Prairie Gold in the 30s. Case switched to, I think it's called Flambeau Red late in the 1930s. And John Deere already had its distinctive colour scheme with its bright green and yellow. In 1928, then, Henry Ford cancelled US production of the Fordson tractor. This disrupted the business of many firms. Farm equipment dealers who sold Fordsons and aftermarket equipment builders whose attachments were designed to mount on Fordsons, for example, the Gleaner combines of the 1920s mounted onto Fordsons, and many Fordson industrial tractors used aftermarket attachments. Many of these firms formed a conglomerate in 1928 called the United Tractor and Equipment Corporation. United arranged a deal with Allis Chalmers to build a tractor to substitute for the now missing Fordson. So around 1930, the United conglomerate collapsed. The reasons for that, various authors have been disagreements between its investors, the onset of the Great Depression, and the fact that the Ford Motor Company Limited of England, which was continuing the Fordson line independently of the US Ford Company, began exporting new Fordsons to America. The United tractor became the Allis Chalmers Model U, which became a very popular tractor. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I'm going to obviously move on to the second part next week, where we'll deal with from the 1930s onwards on to the end of the Allis Chalmers Company. And so if anyone has anything to say, anything to add in, I will be dealing obviously a lot more on the agricultural end of things throughout the next video. There are quite a lot of them in Ireland. I know I was just looking up on Dundee and a few of the marketplaces today, and there are quite a few of them still for sale. They're out there at good prices, nothing too extravagant. Lovely little machine and real piece of history. But yeah, the Allis Chalmers Company, massive company. So yeah, if anybody has anything to say, please drop it in the comments, and I'll most definitely get back to you, as I always do. And please drop in next week to watch the second part of this, because you are not going to want to miss it. Okay, that's it for now. Take care, and I'll see everybody next week.